As Wukong escorted Tang Sanzang on their journey to the western heaven, one day they reached a point where the sun was setting. They saw ahead a temple surrounded by pine and cypress trees, exceptionally tranquil and serene. Tang Sanzang approached the temple and dismounted from his horse, coincidentally encountering a monk coming out from inside. Tang Sanzang respectfully greeted him, saying, "I have come from the great Tang of the East, on a journey to the western heaven to pay respects to the Buddha and seek scriptures. The day is already late, may we be granted shelter for the night?" The monk warmly invited them inside. Tang Sanzang called for Wukong and entered the temple, together with the monk. Upon seeing Wukong, the monk was startled and asked, "What kind of monster is this ugly creature leading the horse?" Tang Sanzang replied, "This is my disciple. Although he may be unsightly, he possesses remarkable abilities." The three entered through the temple gate and saw 4 large characters inscribed on the main hall, Guanyin Zen Temple. Tang Sanzang rejoiced and said, "I have received much grace from Bodhisattva. Encountering this Zen temple today, it is a perfect opportunity to offer my thanks." The monk had the door opened and invited Tang Sanzang inside to pay his respects. With nothing else to do, Wukong began striking the temple bell and joked, "This is what they call a day of monk, a day of bell." Wukong kept striking the bell, causing a commotion among the monks in the temple. They all rushed out, questioning, "Who is this wild man making noise here?" Wukong jumped out and exclaimed, "It's your grandpa's son, playing with the bell." Upon seeing him, the monks were terrified and fell to the ground, shouting, "Lord Thunder God!" Wukong said, "The Thunder God is my great-grandson." Tang Sanzang heard the commotion and hurried over to apologize to the monks. Seeing his sincere demeanor, they relaxed and invited the master and disciple to the back room for tea. As Tang Sanzang and his disciples entered the back room, they saw 2 young boys assisting an old monk with a hunched back out from behind. Introducing him, they said, "This is the abbot of our temple, Elder Jincheng." Tang Sanzang quickly paid his respects to the elder. After sitting down, Tang Sanzang asked, "Elder, how old are you?" Elder Jincheng replied, "I am 270 years old." Upon hearing this, Wukong joked, "He's just a descendant of mine." Tang Sanzang scolded him, "Stop talking nonsense." Elder Jincheng didn't mind and ordered some tea to be served. 2 young boys entered, one carrying a jade tray with 3 golden-laid teacups, and the other holding a white bronze teapot, pouring 3 cups of fragrant tea. After taking a sip, Tang Sanzang praised, "These are truly exquisite tea and utensils." However, Elder Jincheng dismissed them, saying, "These items are not worth mentioning. Since the master comes from the heavenly kingdom, do you have any treasures to show us, allowing us to feast our eyes?" Tang Sanzang replied, "I'm ashamed. There aren't many treasures in the eastern lands, and even if there were, the journey is long, so I didn't bring any." Wukong, on the other hand, enjoyed showing off and said, "Master, I think the robe in the bundle is a treasure. Why not show it to him?" Elder Jincheng was unimpressed and sneered, "I've been a monk for over 200 years and have hundreds of robes." He ordered a monk, "Bring out my robe first." Soon, the monks brought out 12 cabinets, unlocked them, and took out the robes one by one to hang for Tang Sanzang to see. Indeed, they were all exquisitely embroidered, covering the walls with colorful silk. After examining them one by one, Wukong laughed and said, "Put them away. Let us show you ours." Tang Sanzang grabbed him and whispered, "Don't compete with others over wealth. We are alone on this journey, and may encounter trouble." Wukong, unconcerned, said, "Master, you worry too much. What harm is there in showing the robe?" He hurriedly untied the bundle and unfolded the robe, instantly filling the room with a red glow and a rainbow aura, stunning all the monks. Seeing such a treasure, Elder Jincheng couldn't help but be moved. He knelt down before Tang Sanzang and said, "The day is already late, and my eyesight is failing. Could I please take it to the back room to examine it carefully tonight and return it to you tomorrow morning?" Tang Sanzang was taken aback. However, Wukong laughed and said, "With son Wukong here, what is there to fear? He handed the robe to Elder Jincheng and instructed, "Feel free to examine it, but remember to return it to me tomorrow morning without any damage." Elder Jincheng was overjoyed and took the robe. He ordered the monks to clean up the front hall, bring out 2 rattan beds, and set up bedding for Tang Sanzang and his disciples to rest. Elder Jincheng returned to the back room and examined the brocade robe under the lamp. As he looked at it, he suddenly burst into tears. His disciples asked, "Master, why are you crying?" The elder replied, "I have lived for 270 years and have never seen such a fine robe. If I could wear it for just one day, I could die without regrets." The disciple said, "What's difficult about that? Keep Tang Sanzang here for a few more days, and you can wear it." The elder sighed, "But when he leaves, I'll have to return it to him. It won't last." One monk named Guangmo suggested, "It's easy to make it last. Just set fire to the front hall. When those 2 monks die, the robe will be ours." The elder wiped away his tears and praised, "What a clever plan." He ordered the monks to fetch firewood. That night, more than 200 monks in the temple were busy moving firewood, surrounding the front hall so tightly that there was no way out, preparing to set it on fire. Meanwhile, Tang Sanzang and his disciples rested in the front hall. Wukong heard constant movement outside and wondered, could it be thieves? Afraid of waking Tang Sanzang, he transformed into a bee and flew out of the hall. Upon seeing the monks' intentions, Wukong thought to himself, "These people want to harm my master and his disciples. If I kill them with my staff, my master will blame me for violence. Well, I'll play along with their scheme." Wukong made up his mind and somersaulted up to the southern heavenly gate, startling the guards who cried out, "Oh no, that troublemaking monkey is here again." Wukong quickly waved his hand and said, "No need for formalities, I'm here to find General Guangmu." Just then, General Guangmu arrived and asked Wukong, "I heard you're escorting Tang Sanzang to fetch scriptures. How come you have time to come here?" Wukong replied, "Let's not dwell on the past. Someone is setting fire to Tang Sanzang's place. I've come to borrow your fire avoidance hood." The general asked, "If there's a fire, why borrow a hood instead of using water to save them?" Wukong chuckled, "If I borrow water, the fire won't start. I'll just protect Tang Sanzang and let the rest burn." The general, unwilling to refuse, laughed and said, "You monkey, always selfish. You only care about yourself and not others," and handed over the hood. Taking the hood, Wukong mounted his cloud, covering Tang Sanzang, the white horse, and the luggage, while he went to sit on the roof of Elder Jincheng's room, guarding the brocade robe. Seeing the monks starting the fire, Wukong quickly recited a spell and blew a breath of air toward the fire, creating a strong wind. In an instant, the wind intensified the fire, engulfing the Guanyin temple in black smoke and red flames. The elder and the monks were caught off guard, busy salvaging their belongings, crying out in distress throughout the temple. However, this huge fire alerted a demon. In the south of the Guanyin temple lies Black Wind Mountain, where there's a Black Wind cave inhabited by a black bear demon. Upon waking up and seeing the bright windows, the demon, named Heixiong, hurriedly got up and saw the flames of the Guanyin temple. Heixiong exclaimed in shock, "These monks are so careless. Let me help them extinguish the fire." He then rode his cloud and flew straight to the Guanyin temple. Upon arriving at the temple, Heixiong saw flames everywhere. Unable to find any water source, he noticed that there was no fire in the back room, so he rushed in. To his surprise, he found a brocade robe on the table emitting colorful light. Heixiong unwrapped it and saw that it was an extraordinary treasure of the Buddhist sect. Greed overcoming him, Heixiong forgot about extinguishing the fire. He took the robe and, taking advantage of the chaos, returned to Black Wind Cave. It wasn't until the early morning hours that the fire finally extinguished. The monks cried and wailed, scrambling to build makeshift shelters and cook meals. Wukong returned the fire avoidance hood to General Guangmu at the southern heavenly gate and said, "Thank you, thank you." The general accepted it, pleased, and said, "I was worried you wouldn't return my treasure, but you brought it back." Wukong laughed, "It's just a matter of borrow and return." Wukong bid farewell and returned to the front hall. Seeing Tang Sanzang still sleeping, he called out, "Master, it's dawn. Let's get up." Tang Sanzang woke up and got up, saying, "Indeed." Tang Sanzang put on his clothes and walked out, seeing that the entire temple complex had collapsed, which shocked him. Wukong said, "There was a fire last night. I saw you sleeping soundly, so I protected the front hall and didn't disturb you." Tang Sanzang reproached, "If you had the ability to protect the front hall, why didn't you extinguish the fire in other rooms?" Wukong smiled and said, "Master, you don't know. The old abbot set the fire to burn us alive because he wanted to secretly keep the robe for himself. Seeing his malicious intent, I didn't save the fire." Tang Sanzang asked, "Wasn't the robe damaged?" Wukong replied, "The robe was placed in the abbot's room, which wasn't affected by the fire." The two then hurried to the back room. The monks were in mourning when suddenly they saw Tang Sanzang and his disciples approaching, causing them to collapse in fear, thinking, "Vengeful spirits have come for us. Grandfather, it's not our fault, it's the old abbot who harmed you." Wukong shouted, "Stop this talk of vengeful spirits and return my robe." As the people crawled closer, they realized that Tang Sanzang and Wukong were alive and exclaimed, "We were blind and couldn't recognize the true people. The robe is in the abbot's room." At this moment, Elder Jincheng was hiding in the abbot's room, feeling regret for both losing the robe and burning down the entire temple. A monk with a fast leg ran in, shouting, "Elder, Tang Sanzang has come to reclaim the robe." Upon hearing this, Elder Jincheng found himself in a hopeless situation, so he banged his head against the wall, causing it to crack and bleed, and then he died from suffocation.